Hello everyone and welcome to Counselor Future Friday. I'm your host, Brian Urban. In these features we hope to give you some simple tips, tidbits, and tricks to make your days easier and your patients happier. In this feature we're going to talk about mailing statements, specifically how to format invoice statements, envelopes, and labels. We want you to be able to get each one of those in the format that you prefer so they can be sent out however you wish. So we'll start here by clicking on Administration in the top menu bar, and then we'll choose Invoice Options. The bottom half of the screen talks about how the invoice statement will be configured. So the first part talks about the recipient address window. Okay, and you can move that around depending on whatever you need. So typically by default, this will be left aligned, right? But you could change that around to right aligned. And what that's going to do is it's going to change how the invoice looks. So here's an example of left aligned. Here's the patient's address. Here's an example of right aligned, right? So it flips them back and forth. Some of this will depend on what type of envelope you use, right? So if you have a window in your envelope and it matches up with the right side, then you go for that. If it matches with the left side, you go with that, right? You can flip these around. You also have the same control with the return address window, right? So you can move that around depending on what you need. So if you don't have a return address window, meaning you only have a single window in the envelope, then you just leave this as no address window. If you have a double window, meaning you have a recipient address window and a return address window, then you would go ahead and choose upper left corner. And that's going to give you something something like this, where you have the return address labels in the top left-hand corner, and then just depending on where the other window is, you could have the patient's address right aligned or left aligned, right? So here's just some different ways to show you the different alignments. Point being is that you can configure this based on your specific needs. Then you can refine it further. So if you find that it's just not quite lining up, go ahead and play around with these margins. You probably want to take it in small increments. It may be in 2 or 5 units at a time to kind of nudge it one direction or another. And just keep kind of looking at the preview, possibly printing out a test copy, comparing that with what you currently have to find the right alignment. Once you have that in place, you really shouldn't have to change that moving forward unless you were to buy, say, a different type of envelopes. Okay. Of course, if you use envelopes that do not have windows at all, then you don't really have to worry about this. You can print these out however you wish, and you fold and stuff and stamp, and you're ready to go. Okay. So that's the process for updating the invoice options. Of course, any changes you make here, you do want to make sure you click Save afterwards, and then go ahead and test. All right, let's look at envelopes next. So under Forms and Letters here, we can go ahead to Envelope Options. This gives you the ability, of course, to pick, it's a standard envelope size, the A10, but it gives you the ability to pick whether or not the patient's title will be displayed, whether the return address is displayed. Now, this would be an example where you have typically pre-printed envelopes would be the case. So you already have your address, maybe your logo printed on an envelope, and you don't need the envelope to have that printed on it, right? That'd be up to you. If you say, nope, we just have plain envelopes, then you go ahead and you could have the return address displayed, and then it will print that as well, of course. And then you can decide what return address do you want as default? Do you want it just whatever, if you have multiple locations, do you want it to be whatever clinic the patient goes to? Or do you want it to be a specific clinic? Perhaps you have multiple locations and you're saying, yeah, but we want all bills, to go back to this location, or any correspondence from patients to go back to this single location. You can have them all print the same, right? That's fully up to you. Once again, once you make your changes, go ahead and click Save. All right. Now let's go ahead and let's have a look at the address label option. Okay, this is very similar to other areas we've seen so far, where you have the ability to say whether or not on the labels the patient's title will be displayed. You can modify the margins. This does take more finesse, I will say, just to get it to line up the labels properly. But once again, once you have that in place, you should be in good shape. So with this one, once again, you'd want to print out some test pages. Trying to match that up with your labels. I typically print this on paper first and then hold it up to labels so you're not wasting pages of labels testing this out. And then when you feel comfortable that yes, this looks like it matches up well, go ahead and test on some labels. Okay, but once again, make your changes, make your adjustments, go ahead and click save, and you're in good shape going forward. So when you put these all together, the invoice statement formatting, the envelope formatting, and the label formatting, hopefully Counselor can assist you with being able to send out your statements in the manner of your choosing and the formatting you're choosing very, very easily. Of course, if you have any questions, please let us know. Give us a call, email us, live chat with us. We are always happy to help. And once again, thank you very much for joining us for today's Counselor Feature Friday. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.